creating and developing big vision for the team. So we're super excited about tonight. I'm going to pray and open us up, and then we're going to get going. Father, we thank you for this team. We thank you for this opportunity to learn and grow together and develop our leadership skills to help our teams, Lord. We just ask for wisdom. Help us to get much accomplished in 30 minutes. In Jesus' name, amen. I just want to say right off the bat, Amy and I were just chatting about this. Lisa Winters, by the way, Amy Booker, and I are doing this together tonight. I really enjoyed this specific podcast. Given the time in my life that I'm in right now, my mom has dementia, and she just fell 2 weeks ago and broke her hip for the second time, the same hip. And so we've had to navigate, placement for just different things. And so we are all in a different season of our life, and vision leaks. And so in our businesses, in our personal life, whatever we're doing, vision will leak if we're not careful. And so just listening to this, I listened to it twice and was just really trying to apply it to myself and my personally, like taking this in and thinking, okay, what do I need to do to really reflect and think about vision for our team? And so I just want to say right off the bat that everyone is in a different place, and it's never too late to think about, okay, where is my vision right now for my team, for my business, and start applying things quickly. So Amy, why don't you take us away with beginning?
Okay. Okay. And I will say too, in full disclosure, too, full vulnerability, Lisa and I run our team together. We co-lead our team, and we've done it for 6-7 years now. And I always say, Lisa's the vision and I'm the boots on the ground. She's the big dreamer and I'm the like, okay, how are we going to make this happen? And so I feel like for me, I think it's good to know where you're weak. And one of my many weaknesses is that I'm not a huge visionary. And so this was good for me as well. And I think it's good to know our weaknesses and to know where we can grow, right? To know our growth point areas. And so tonight we're gonna, if you have a piece of paper and a pen, I'm gonna start this by asking the questions that she ended her podcast with. And then so there can be things that you can be writing down now or reflect on later, or even if you want to share in the chat thread, I think that would be really great. But she ended this podcast with 3 questions specifically about vision. They were, why does our work matter? Why does what we're doing with Plexus even matter? I think it's important. If it doesn't matter to us, then we're not going to have the conviction to do it, right? So why does it matter? Number 1. Number 2, what are you working toward? Because if you don't have a goal, you're never going to hit it, right? Or you're going to hit it every time because there's nothing to hit. You know what I mean? So what are you working toward? And number 3, what is the plan to get you there? Do you have a plan to get yourself there? So that's how she ended that podcast. And so that's how I wanted to start our time together tonight. And I love how before she even ever got into vision, she reiterated a couple of times. Actually, can I ask how many of you actually listened to it? Because a lot of times, full disclosure again, I'll pop on and listen to these, and I haven't listened to the podcast yet. I just listened to you guys teaching it. But she said a couple of times before she got into the vision part, she said, I'm going to reiterate again how important reflection is. Reflection is just as important as vision. And I think that is so important. I think especially with Plexus, it's so it's kind of like this wheel that we're racing on, right? Like we just got off convention contest and we immediately jumped into leadership trait contest. So we're racing. There's a goal, there's a prize, there's things, but it's important to look back and reflect on, even for us month to month, and even especially to shout out our people on our team, like what went well last month? What goal did I accomplish last month? What did I not accomplish? What can I pivot to do better this month? Who can I shout out this, last month? How did I do in the convention contest? What goals did I meet? I was 20 points shy from the $1,000. Let me tell you, was that another bummer? You know what I mean? Ticked me off, bummer. I should have done a better job of tracking my points, right? And so what am I going to do different for Leaders Retreat contest? Let me tell you, I'm going to track my points better. Okay. So reflection is super, super important. And it's just important to know also, like, what are we working toward? What's the plan? So, okay. Question.
Can I chime in a thought here too?
Yeah.
Well, I think that this is, I wrote it down, what you just said. Reflection is just as important as vision. And I think this is one of the things that makes Brittany Howard such a good leader. Because when I consider the topics she makes these podcasts about, I'm like, yes, I need that. Why have I never heard a training about that before? And I think it comes from being a really good reflector. Like,
Yes.
like her whole thing in this series we're about to go into is like who to develop as a leader, and how it's a process that you engage in, not just like, oh, they didn't want to lead, on to the next. Oh, they're
Yes.
not leadership material, on to the next. And we keep doing that on that hamster wheel, like you're saying. And she's like, it's a process you engage in. And then I don't know if y'all follow her on social media, but her current series that we're not caught up with yet is how do you help move your team members forward? What do you do when your teammate misses a big goal? How do you hold them? How do you coach them and move them forward? And again, that same thought of like, yes, like that's what I need to hear. Why is this the first time I'm hearing anyone train on this before? And I think it's because she's such a good reflector. So she like assesses the situation and is like, okay, I'm seeing a snag here. Let's dig deeper into this. And so many of us don't stop and reflect. We just keep we
speed ahead, guns blazing,
plowing forward. Yeah.
Yeah. And I think I've heard Megan say it several times before, but other leaders as well. Sometimes we have to slow down before we can speed up. And it's hard for us to do that, but I think it's super important. And the other thing that she said at the very beginning, which I really loved, is she talks about having a daily habit of learning, right? I think that was so good. And she mentioned the book, The Conviction to Lead. And so before I hand it back over to Lisa for a few minutes, she said, what do great leaders do? We need to analyze them, and then we can model them. Her definition of a great leader is someone who's not just producing results for themselves, but someone who also knows how to help produce results in others. That's what Carissa was just talking about. How do we bring our leaders alongside of us as well, our people alongside of us as well, and help them get the results that they want to get? Leadership is not just about how far do I want to get. It's about how far can I bring my people with me? How far can we do this together? And so before we ever go into vision, I think Plexus as a whole does a great job with vision. I think we do not such a great job with reflection. And so 3 things great leaders have. Take it away, Liesl.
3 things great leaders have. Number 1, conviction. Number 2, vision. And then number 3, plan. So the first one, conviction. Conviction actually means it's a deeply held belief, or a belief that actually holds you. When we live by conviction, Brittany says, our work becomes so much more than just a paycheck, driven by purpose, mission, and the impact that your work has on other people. That is quotable, hashtagable. I'm telling you, when you've been in this business longer than a month, right? It'll be 8 years for me in July that I, clicked join. And conviction is huge in life, absolutely in life. And so it's huge on a personal level for everyone. And then take that to your business. If you don't have conviction, it becomes about a paycheck. And then that does not produce joy in your life. And so pray about that. Ask God, ask those questions like Amy said at the beginning. Why are we doing this? Why does it matter working this business? It's not just about the products, even though we know that they're amazing and they're life-changing. This opportunity is amazing and life-changing. And so having a conviction that you can dig your heels in the ground to know why you are doing it, why when you get up, when you're going to work, just like Amy said, to actually stop and reflect. That's a weakness of mine. I don't like really to do that. And so I'm always like onward and upward. That's my famous, last words, but it's important to reflect. And then reflect, okay, why do I not have conviction? Where is it? Why is it buried? That vision, maybe it's leaked, but where is the conviction? And sometimes we get so busy in life that conviction is just not on my mind. It's there, but it's not on my mind. And I've got all these other things. And so I found in life and in this business that a lot of times it's little adjustments. So if you need a little adjustment with conviction, it's easy. Pray, reflect, write, and then make that little adjustment, and we'll begin to see conviction more deeply. Do you want to say anything about conviction, Amy, before we move on to vision?
Well, I love how she talks about when we have conviction, then everything that we do is going to be driven by purpose, by mission, by impact that we know we'll have on people. And then another quote that she gave about, I just want to backtrack really quick to reflection because I forgot a quote that she said, but it ties in with conviction, is she's like, even thinking about me in the convention contest and being 20 points short of the money, right? She said, experience is what you get when you didn't get what you want. I just experienced something amazing. Wisdom is what you get when you combine experience with reflection. So we can't skip that step. So I get wisdom when I take the experience and then I reflect as well. And they combine experience with those two things. And that conviction too, I think, if we don't have conviction, if we don't believe in the products, if we don't believe in the compensation plan, if we don't believe that network marketing can be done with integrity, because that's one of the biggest slams on network marketing companies, if we don't believe that this is actually a way that we can earn honest money and do it honestly and not slimily, then people are going to see that. People are going to see that. We have to have the conviction that what we're doing, it's quality with a company with high integrity, with products of highest potency and purity, and we can stand behind it with 100% confidence. Whether or not it's the passion of your life or not, it doesn't matter. If we have conviction that this is everything that I stand behind, I am proud to put my stamp of approval on. People can see through that a mile away.
So really, it's like cultivating conviction about why we're doing what we're doing. It's something that we have to cultivate and spur one another on. If you have a runner and, a sideline runner, spur one another on. Amy and I do that on a continual basis. Like we will talk and we will say, where are you right now? How are you feeling? The second thing that she talks about is leadership vision. And one of the things that really stuck out to me is she had said, don't let fear keep us from cultivating a vision for our team. And that, again, that's been a weakness for me where I'll get excited, but then I'll be afraid that I'll be let down, that goal or that vision that we set as a team does not come to fruition. And so leadership vision is huge. And really to ask yourself, what do you want your team to look like in a year? What do you, and she asked that question, and to think about, and really to break that down and to think about each leader that you have and what do they want to see and what do you see for them on your team, and to be able to actually break that down. And we'll get into the third one is plan. But as far as that vision piece, again, to allow myself to envision what I want for my team, to actually focus on this, and that takes, again, it takes time to sit and reflect. Mm-hmm. What do I want my team? I see where my team is right now. And it's easy to do that at the end of the month. For me personally, just being really honest, when it's been a great month, I'm really excited to reflect. Okay. Because then I'm thinking, oh my gosh, we have all these wins. Yay. You're writing down all the wins. But when it's been a hard month or months, right, or a hard year, it's harder to maybe drag yourself to reflect. But in order to be able to have the vision, to be able to sit down and say, what do I want my team to look like in a year? It's going to take a little bit of time for us to do that. And to remember that we adjust our timelines, but we don't the vision or the goal. And so I remember many times when we've had goals, and I've looked at my planner for the business, and Amy and I have sat down together and we've had goals and we've had to push those goals out. It's okay. We can't be married to and this is from me, you can't be married to the timeline. Mm-hmm. You're married to the goal and to the vision, but you're never married to the timeline, because we can't control things. We can only control what we can control, but we can't control that actual goal coming to fruition. We do everything we can do. And if I have found in my life, when I don't put all of my hope into that timeline, then my joy is not robbed. My joy is not based on whether that goal is going to come to fruition. My joy is based on actually loving the journey that I'm on and finding joy where I'm at in the ups and the downs of the season, and making sure that I plug that bathtub that there's always, we've talked about that, right? In network marketing, that your bathtub, you're always filling it, and it's always emptying a little bit too when you have people leave your teams for whatever reason. It's the same way with vision. You can have new vision come in. You have to plug the tub to make sure that the vision that you have, it's going to stay fresh, and you're always going to be pouring into that. The water doesn't get stagnant, and that your vision stays fresh. But the biggest vision needs to be clear, compelling, and believable. So make sure that when you're writing your vision, you are so clear. Don't be vague. It's so easy to say, I want to be doing better in a year from now. I want to be helping lots of people. That is definitely not clear. And that's actually a lazy way out of putting our vision down. I've tried that. It is not, it might be easy for us to do at that moment, not requiring us to work or reflect, but it will not produce something that is going to be compelling for you or your team. And then believable. Like we could say, we want to be, some ridiculous, and you know what? It's been done, right? You've seen people that have, whatever their goals are, maybe it's been done, but you have to be able to say in your mind and heart, I believe that can happen. If you look at that and say, that's ridiculous, that's never going to happen, probably won't. And your team will think you're crazy too. So make sure that that your vision is clear, that it is compelling, and that it's believable, and that we have to be able to say no to things that don't fall in line with that vision. And there will be many things that try and pull us off track and really defeat us and really abort the mission before it ever happens, before we ever see it. And so we've heard all those things, your best yes, and all those little cliches. Period. Bottom line, you just got to learn to say no to things that don't come in line with your vision. And that goes for all areas of our life. For some reason, it seems hard in our businesses because this is network marketing. And so many times people don't take it seriously. But it's vision needs to be clear, compelling, and believable. Amy, any thoughts on that?
Well, her challenge, which I thought was really good, and I thought if you guys could spitball off the top of your heads in the chat thread, but also think about this for later on your paper for reflection time. She said your vision should be able to fit into like 1 or 2 sentences to be able to do an elevator speech in about a minute, or be able to fit on a Post-it note. So that's where your words are super concise, your words are super intentional, and you're communicating that vision with the least amount of words as possible. So those words are very, very concise, and they're very, very intentional. So can you spitball, like if someone were to ask you when you're headed at convention, let's say, someone who's not from Plexus, and you're riding in the elevator with them, they say, oh, why are you here? And you say, oh, I'm for a Plexus convention. And they say, oh, what's that? What do you do? Do you say, I sell supplements, I sell vitamins? That's not a very exciting vision. Could you spitball in 30 seconds or a minute or less why you do what you do and what you do? Could you do that? If anyone dares, you could put it in the chat thread. I know that it takes time, like to really think through it, but I think it's good to think through it and to not just be thinking about, I work for Plexus, ever heard of it? It's a health and wellness supplement company, blah, blah, blah. But why do I work for Plexus? Why do I have my own business? I love to help moms stay home with their babies. I love that I'm able to help my husband retire my husband early so that he can have more time with their kids. I'm spitballing here, but something like that. I help people. Okay, yes, we've got some here. I'm just going to read some out loud for the replay. I help people feel their best with solutions that work. I find solutions for people who are hurting and look for better health and happiness. Okay, I had this conversation with a car salesman today. I want to have my husband home to retire with me. And so, but can you communicate that? Because she's like, the goal is you got to sell me on it. Sell me on your vision. Why would I want to do this? And so I think, and we got to sell ourselves on it, right? We got to sell ourselves on it so that we keep the conviction and so that we stay here for the long haul. And so that when the nature of this beast that's like this in our schizophrenic minds, I hate it, I love it, I hate it, I'm quitting, I love it, tomorrow, so that we can be stable and steady and stay here for the long haul, right? We are here for the long haul. And so we have to be married to our vision and our convictions, and they can change too. The Lord can shift things in your heart, but it can't just be, I sell vitamins That's lame. That's lame for me. I mean, I could sell ice cubes too. You know what I mean? So anyways, I loved that challenge from her. And I think that that's a really, really great reflection point for us. Okay. And so then the last thing she talked about is great leaders have a plan. And so Henry Cloud's, the quote she shared was, to start with, you need to determine the milestones. What are the benchmarks that I need to achieve this vision? How will I know that I'm on the right track? Because once we know this, then we can determine our actual strategy. And so we need to know that from each of our people too, right? Each of our leaders, like we need to help them with their strategy as well. And so she talks about what am I going to do? When am I going to do it by? What's the deadline? And then how are you going to hold yourself and your people accountable, right? It's a tricky thing. It's a weird dance in Plexus to hold your team accountable because you're not their boss. They don't work for you, but that's just the thing. We work for ourselves. And so accountability is actually a really beautiful thing. And it's a thing that it should be viewed as like really positive. And so when you sign someone up, when I sign someone up who wants to work the business and I ask her what her goals are, you know, when I sign her up, I could say, do I have permission to remind you of these goals 2 or 3 months down the road? You know, do I have permission to speak into your life when maybe if things get a little crazy or things get a little dicey or things get a little discouraging? You know, on our team, we had someone who was running hard for, you know, she came from another company, ran hard for a tiny little bit of time and told us, you know, I gave it a 2-week go and didn't get any traction. So I'm out, you know, so, okay, you know, so that's when we remind people of their goals and keep them accountable. And so for us in network marketing, those of you who didn't watch the Zoom, the podcast, I mean, do you know what our 4 pillars are in Plexus in network marketing? You guys want to put it in the chat thread? The 4 pillars of who we are and what we're about. Dun, 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 dun.
Wait, are you talking about like the company's core values, or are you talking about
Brittany's her 4 pillars.
pillars.
The plan? If we need a plan, our strategy for our growth, for our vision, what are the 4 pillars she talks about? But I feel like company-wide, we talk about this. Genevieve talks about this all the time too. Maybe I'm being clear. I'll say them. Recruiting, retention, duplication, and leadership, right? Yes. Recruit, retain, duplication, and retention. No, and leadership. Leadership, that's the 4th one. Let me say it again. Recruit, retain, duplication, and leadership. So would you guys put in the chat thread of those 4 things, would you share with us, if you dare, where you feel you're strongest, which one is your strongest, and which one is your weakest? Would you share both? And she goes through each one, like, do you feel confident in these areas? Do you know exactly what action to take in these areas? And if you feel confident, does your team feel confident? Have you trained your team? And if you don't, and if they don't, then we need to become masters of it, right? And I surely need to become a master in this stuff too. And so there is so much training. We have access to so much training now that we've ever had before. YouTube videos, things like that. So if you feel weak in duplication, there are so many trainings out there that we could watch on duplication. Like we really have no excuse to not get better, right? And if we have that learning mindset. So that's what she says, go and watch videos, go and watch trainings, share your resources with your team, evaluate yourself as a leader. Are you doing well in each of these 4 pillars, and how can you ensure that your team will do well too? And so that's just good for me, right? It's humbling sometimes as a leader to be like, yikes, I do a craptastic job at this. And it's clear because the speed of the leaders, the speed of the team. And so, but that's good to know, right? And to learn and say, let's learn and let's grow and let's figure this out together. Let's do this together. And then she kind of wraps up talking about, Lisa mentioned it a little bit, but having guardrails in place, which I think is so good. You know, boundaries. And I even view that as like your protected IPA time, setting your, you know, set an appointment for yourself. If you had an appointment with I don't know, a doctor or a dentist or whatever, you would honor that appointment. You wouldn't stand them up. So if you say you're going to do your IPA from 8 to 8:30 tomorrow, you shouldn't stand yourself up, and put those guardrails in place where you have those safe parameters where this is where you're going to show up and you're going to do the things. And maybe it's a 15-minute parameter, but it's a guardrail. And so, my kids are in private Christian school this year. And I'm a room mom, I'm a homeroom mom, and I do quite a few field trips, but there are some strong no's that I'm saying, because otherwise I could live at their school all day. And I want to be available to do lots of things, but there's certain times that I'm sorry, I'm unavailable. And they don't need to know why. No is a complete sentence. Thank you so much for considering me. No, I can't. I'm unable to do it at that time, because those are my parameters. Those are my guardrails for my protected time. And also mentioning the girl on our team who gave it a strong 2-week go. The general rule is when you try something, a strategy or whatever, it takes about 90 days. There's a 90-day, what's the word she uses? Like a, whatever. It takes 90 days for you to even see like your progress. Like, you know what I'm trying to say? There's a word she used, but feel free to speak it out if you know the word I'm thinking. The 90-day rule, but she talks about there's a 90-day almost like
I can't think of that word either, but I know what you're saying.
Yeah. So anyways, so we're going to do 90 days worth of work. It is the 90-day rule, and we're not going to see the results from that for those 90 days. And so we need to, mentally be like, don't switch up your plan. Don't there's worth in pivoting. Like, this is not working, we need to pivot. And there's also wisdom in being like, we've only tried this for like 3 months. Let's keep going. Let's keep trying. Let's see if this works. I remember Cassie talking about getting her team, really getting them into the plexus, like the Monday motivation, the Wednesday wellness, and just saying like, I've repeat. And we're just starting to see traction of my team being like getting into the rhythm and the habit of that. So it takes time before that's going to happen. And then she talks about measuring progress along the way. And that's where there has to be inspection combined with communication. And so the only way we know we're making progress is measuring the right things and holding people accountable. So that would be the accountability piece. Lisa, do you want to say anything else at all?
I had a thought and it just escaped me. I was reading that comments over here. I don't remember what I was actually going to say.
Also, if you wanted to share, speaking of that 90-day rule, is there anything that you guys are doing with your teams currently that you've maybe just been doing for a little amount of time, or maybe it's a long time, but that you're seeing fruit and you're like, or maybe Lisa and I are trying a monthly team dinner in the evenings with our team. First, we tried it weekly, then we tried it bi-weekly. Now we're trying it monthly, but we know that our team needs face-to-face, belly-to-belly time, and we're still in the trying to figure out what works best for our local people. They're all old farts like we are and don't like to be up late. So we're trying to, but we know we need time together. And so we're still in the, like, we know it's important. Sometimes only 2 people come. Is it still worth it? I think it is. We're going to pivot a little bit, but we're still going to stick with, we know we need to get together at least once a month. You know what I mean? So that's where we are right now. And I think that that's okay. That's good. And that's what she talks about, adapting along the way. When we're doing accountability, we're holding ourselves accountable, whatever our plan was, did we do what we say we were going to do? If no, why? And if yes, if we did do what we say we were going to do, did it work? Is it working? And if yes, carry on. If not, if we do what we said we we're going to do, but it's not really working, and that's where we pivot and we adapt, and not being afraid to adapt. So there's that dance and that balance, right? Of not being afraid to pivot and change and adapt, but also being like, let's try this for a little bit longer. I think this could still be good for us, and learning that dance and having wise counselors, speak into our lives and into our teams as well. Do you have anything else you wanted to add, Lise?
Nope. I think it's 9:15. So I think we're good.
She ended with those 3 questions. So just reflection time on our own, maybe share with your sideline or your upline or just yourself before the Lord. Why does your work matter? Can you do your vision in 60 seconds or less? Could you do it in an elevator speech on a sticky note? What are you working toward? What is your goal? Where there is no vision, the people perish, right? And what's the plan to get you there? Do you have a plan? All right, guys, blitzy fast, but we did it. Love you.
Guys.